Good morning and welcome as always to our DNet studio. We've had Valila for a year now. I can't even count how many times this year we've said to ourselves, we'll do the copy touch, we need to do the copy touch, we'll set up the copy touch. We still haven't set it up, so we finally decided to upgrade our equipment. Today we'll see together what the Davit is for and how to install it on the pulpit of boats. Today we'll see together what it's for, how to install the Outboard Davit on the pulpit of recreational boats. But first of all, why should you consider adding this to your boat? The answer is actually very simple. Convenience and practicality. The Davit lets you easily handle the tender's outboard motor and makes every operation with the outboard a stress-free experience. Say goodbye to exhausting boarding and disembarking operations and hello to convenience. But first of all, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, and as always, welcome to our DNet studio. But what is a Davit? The Davit for lifting the outboard is a mechanical device designed to make the operation easier. It allows you to hoist and lower the tender's outboard motor onto or from the main boat. This Davit is usually installed on the stern pulpit of the boat and provides a lifting system that greatly simplifies the process of transferring the engine. At the same time, it reduces the effort required thanks to a small pulley block. It usually consists of an articulated arm that can be positioned so that the line can reach the tender below. The arm is connected to a lifting mechanism that can be operated manually, as in this case, or by an electric hydraulic system depending on the model. This allows you to lift the outboard engine easily, reducing the effort required and improving the efficiency of the entire operation. Installing a Davit to lift the outboard engine is not just useful, but I dare say it's essential for those who own one. An outboard engine that exceeds a certain weight, making it much easier to load and unload the outboard onto the tender and improving the overall safety of the operation. Now that we know why having a Davit on board is so advantageous, let's move on to how to install it. The process is simpler than you might think. The first thing to do is to get all the tools and equipment you'll need for the job ready. Once we've marked the spots where we need to drill and made sure there's nothing underneath that we could damage, at that point we can go ahead and drill. Hole number 1 and hole number 2. Once the holes are drilled, we take our base plate, set it in place, and we can add a bit of silicone before putting in the screws. Make sure to use silicone because otherwise, even if the screws are perfect, over time it'll slowly start to leak inside. So definitely use silicone. Even if you use a bit too much silicone, don't worry about it. Because once it dries, if any squeezes out, just wait for it to dry and then cut it off. Don't try to remove it while it's still wet or you'll just make a bigger mess. Now let's put our base plate in place. Okay, now the screws and then the nuts underneath. One. And 2. Once this installation is finished, it's time to put in the guide. This is very simple. It's made up of a piece of metal tubing and the screw with a nut. In this case, all we did was insert onto the base the part where we'll then insert the small crane. Very simple. Once the installation is done, tighten everything well. This is the finished work for installing the base of the small crane. Now let's install the small crane. Before inserting the small crane into the base, remember to put this little piece here because it will be used to secure it to the pulpit. Now let's go ahead and test the small crane. Our small crane will stay like this. And this will be its range of motion. We're perfectly above the door, outboard. If that's not the case, in this situation, this is quite adjustable. Once it's set, just tighten it. Now here, we're gonna tighten it onto the pulpit. This is the piece we'll use to close and lock it in place. Be sure to insert the screws with the shaft facing inward and to put the self-locking nut in the correct position. I say this because it's definitely safer not to have any sharp points. Either outside or inside the pulpit. This is for the sake of your hands. Once you've inserted all 4 nuts, all you need to do is tighten them up securely. And we've done the bulk of the work on the davit. Next, let's move on to installing the small line so we can stay outboard. Now, let's insert the cleat and lock it in place. We still have to install a few things. The small block, the line, and the snap hook that will later be attached to the block, but we can also hook it on right away, which will be used to lift the outboard motor. As we proceed with the installation, let's tie a small knot here. We'll run this line on the outside. Once we've secured the line to the shackle, before doing anything else, we need to remember to insert the black. Once we have successfully inserted the block into position, we will carefully place it at the very front of the davit, making sure it sits well beyond its intended guide. And there you have it. We've installed the davit with its line. With everything set up perfectly, now we need to think about how to lift the outboard motor. Usually, I always use a strap pulled tight so that it forms a loop above the engine cover, but today I want to be less of a liveaboard and a bit more professional. So I'm going to install this wonderful invention, the Trem outboard harness. Here it is. Once it's installed, we can pair the davit with the outboard and start the lifting test. Attach the outboard to the handle of the lifting harness and operate the davit. Watch with joy and happiness as your outboard gently lifts off the tender's transom, effortlessly. Be sure to check the stability of the lift and make sure everything's working smoothly. And that's the magic of the davit, making lifting the outboard a piece of cake. In conclusion, the davit. It's an accessory that can transform your boating experience, making every part of the journey easier, definitely less tiring, and safer. Installing it is a breeze, but above all, it's a practical investment that'll pay you back for all the effort you've put in so far to put the engine on and take it off the tender. So equip your boat with a davit and enjoy a stress-free boating experience full of comfort. As always, I remind you to subscribe to the channel and share this video with a friend who doesn't yet know about the wonderful power of the Davit. Fair winds to you, not too little, not too much, but just right.